Accumulative. It means to accumulate. It means when you use the word in referring to something, it means that it accumulates. Right now, ever since 2011, Fukushima has been leaking massive amounts of radioactive material into the Pacific, and the governments and the mainstream media have been completely whitewashing the issue. People are seeing it on the internet, the massive animal die-offs, the mutations. We're seeing all this now, and there's a lot of people who are voicing opinions. But the word accumulative, I don't think that people understand exactly what this means, or what the implications of what this means to the human race. The material that's been dumped into the Pacific is by far the most massive contamination of the Earth's environment by man with radioactive materials in history. And it's equivalent to tens of thousands of atomic bombs and radioactivity. Some of the materials have tiny half-lives, and some have half-lives that go beyond millions of years. The bottom line is that the radioactivity from Fukushima is going to stay in the environment for generations, multiple generations to come. Cumulative. Ever since 2011, since the first explosions of Fukushima, radioactive particles have been flowing across the northern hemisphere. And as they drift across the northern hemisphere, they are accumulating in the environment everywhere. All our rivers, all the land, all the soil, and thus is accumulating in the entire food chain, no matter what it is. Fish, cattle, produce, poultry, dairy products, everything. Accumulative is the topic of this video. This means that every time you eat something, even though that the government says, oh, it's just trace amounts, safe, it means that if it's in what you're eating, even in the smallest amounts, it means that it will accumulate in your system. It can be the slightest microscopic particles of plutonium, strontium, cesium-137, anything. It will accumulate in your system. And when you finish eating that food and it passes through your body, the particles aren't going to pass through your body just like food does. They will get in your system and they will settle somewhere. Your bone marrow, your bone tissue, your organs, muscle tissue, your brain, your thyroid glands, anything. And the particles that you intake in that one sitting may be so small that it would take the finest equipment to even detect it in your system. Then you go eat another meal. You have some water. You drink a Coke. And if it's got some more in it, that means some more will go in your system. And it will accumulate. And so on and so on. And over time, it's going to build up in our system. And over time, it will build up in our systems enough to cause health problems. And eventually cause a premature death. It will lead you to your demise. Now, I don't understand fully as to what all the reasons are that it's not being, that this issue is not the number one story in American media. But it's all kinds of reasons. They're worried about real estate, they're worried about panic, they're worried about backlash from the public. They're worried about people pointing fingers, I'm sure, But what could, I've been hearing a lot of talk about this is by design. So, it may be. It may be by design. They say some of the wealthiest people in the world are Satanists, genocidalists. Who knows? That's the short end of the stick. Now for the long end of the stick. Cumulative means that once it gets in your system and it starts doing damage to your DNA, there'll be mutations. And that sounds, pretty much not so scary, I say, to people that's of my age group, people who've already lived full lives and stuff, they're probably not too worried about it. I hear a lot of people say, you worry too much. There's nothing you can do about it. I hear that all the time. It's so lame. It really is. I mean, people are more willing to go to the department store and spend money on a DVD and spend their time for the rest of the day to watch it, and instead of actually spending a little time to address the issue of the fact that there is something happening in the world that is going to lead to the extinction of everything on this planet in possibly the next 20, 30 years. Where is our priorities? The mutations. Therein lies the nightmare. Not the immediate health effects to this generation. This generation will see heart conditions. Chernobyl in Europe, the older generation now, the leading cause of death is heart conditions, heart failure, heart disease. And this is a byproduct of what Chernobyl did. The Chernobyl heart is a common term in the medical society of Europe. And this term is also being used in conjunction with addressing videos of animals dying, of dropping dead, like the grizzly bear that rolled down the hill and was dropped dead from a heart attack. They called it the Chernobyl heart. Okay, we understand that. The health conditions of this generation is just the tip of the iceberg. The mutations. Therein lies the nightmare. Because the mutation could be slight. All right? And you'll see it in the next generation. You'll see birth defects. You'll see babies born without brains. You'll see babies with extra arms. You'll see everything. You'll see all kinds of crazy stuff. But this is not where it ends. Once the DNA code has been damaged and this aspect. The thing about life is that it has certain basic instincts. One is to eat. Two is to propagate, to reproduce, survive. So what we have here is the next generation being born with some of it being mutated by this. Not all the babies we're going to see being born, of course, is going to be mutated. It's going to be a slight percentage, a small percentage probably. The next generation after that is probably going to be higher, because this stuff's not going to go away for 1,000 years, or a couple of thousand years actually. Even more so. It's, they're saying plutonium has half-lives in the millions, possibly trillions of years. But the nightmare is 20, 30 generations down the line, we're going to have the human race as a species of mutations. And the basic instinct of anything that's alive is going to rule that organism's behavior. They're going to want to propagate. They're going to want to eat. Their intelligence may be, in one extreme, smart, in the other extreme could be very animalistic and extremely savage. Who knows? But once you've damaged the DNA code, and as the generations progress, therein lies the damage is also cumulative. It builds up. The DNA code becomes more corrupt, shall we say, is in the terms of software. That's what DNA is basically like. It's like a basic program for the organism. It's DNA code. So as time goes by, we're going to see the beginnings of what I would refer to as another species, or two, or three. And they're not going to be distinct species of the human race. It's going to be like, they're going to be more like, in time, we'll start seeing people who are like monsters. As time goes by, as each generation happens, if a person who's damaged in a DNA sort of sense, a mutant, has another child, then that child's DNA is going to be even more so damaged, and so on and so on. And before long, there you have it. You have something that's not really human anymore. And that's the nightmare. We are giving birth. This generation and our technology of nuclear, atomic energy and everything is now giving birth to something that is going to be more like a science fiction movie in another 200 years. And that is the truth. And the only way that it can be controlled or stopped is if laws are mandated to actually exterminate mutants. And try to keep the genetics of our species the same, instead of it going off in different directions. And that's just the only choice we really have. Because if it's allowed to carry on, and continue to manifest itself, then we're going to see 200, 300, 400 years from now, we're going to see all kinds of crazy byproducts of Fukushima. human species.